Have you ever felt like you've created a monster?
That's a strong way to start. What kind of monster are we talking about here?
I don't mean, a metaphorical, oh, my to-do list is a little scary kind of monster.
Yeah.
I mean a full-on, bolts in the neck Frankenstein's monster that is actively, and I mean actively, trying to destroy you.
Okay, I'm with you now.
No.
And yes, that is a very, very familiar feeling for a lot of people.
It's that specific entrepreneurial feeling, right? You start a business with this incredible spark. It feels like a miracle. You're creating something literally out of thin air.
You're the mad scientist in the lab bringing an idea to life.
Exactly. But then as it grows, it starts to get hungry. It demands more time, more energy, and specifically, it starts eating cash.
It is the cash-eating monster. It's a real phenomenon.
Yeah, you wake up one day and you realize this thing you loved, this thing you built to give you freedom, is now a soul-sucking beast that you have to feed constantly just to keep it from, turning on you and destroying everything.
It's the reality for the vast majority of entrepreneurs. We see business owners working relentlessly, driving what we call the top line, that gross revenue number, to really impressive heights.
Oh, yeah, they're hitting seven figures. They're posting about crushing it on social media.
Exactly, high-fiving their sales teams. But then you look behind the curtain, you look at the operating account, and there is just panic. There is zero cash, there's mounting debt, it's all a facade.
It's the hustle but no cash paradox. It's generating millions on paper, but you personally can't afford a sandwich for lunch, and that is exactly what we are unpacking today.
We're doing a deep dive into Profit First by Mike Michalowicz.
And I have to say, going through this material, this doesn't feel like a book about accounting. It feels like an intervention.
I think that's a fair description. The mission here isn't to teach you how to be an accountant or, memorize tax codes. It's to deconstruct why the traditional way we look at money, the way we've all been taught for 100 years, is actually fighting against our basic human nature.
So the system is broken, not the entrepreneur.
Michalowicz's whole argument is that you're not failing. Your system is. You aren't an idiot. You're just using a flawed operating system.
Which is a huge relief to hear, honestly, because usually when you're broke in your own business, you just feel like a complete failure.
Right. And he offers a completely different system, what he calls a small plate approach, to fix it permanently.
And the bold claim here, and it is a bold one, is that this system can make any business profitable from the very next deposit. Not in a year, not someday when you scale, but literally tomorrow.
It's a big promise. But before we get to the fix, we really have to talk about the author, Mike Michalowicz. Because his credentials, well, they come from a pretty painful place. He didn't learn this in an MBA program.
No, this was learned in the School of Hard Knocks, big time. Mike isn't writing from some ivory tower. He built and sold two companies for millions of dollars. On paper, he was the ultimate success story.
He had what he called the Midas touch. He thought everything he touched turned to gold. But then he lost it all. And I mean all of it.
This is the part of the story that really hooked me. Let's go back to what he calls his angel of death phase. Because the level of hubris here is, well, it's honestly kind of relatable if you've ever had a big win.
For sure. So he sells his second company, a computer forensics firm, to a Fortune 500 company. He gets this first check for $388,000. What's the very first thing he does with it?
He buys a Dodge Viper, of course he
A
does.
green one, which is, not a subtle car.
Not at all. But he didn't stop there.
No. He bought a Land Rover for his wife, and then just for good measure, a tricked-out BMW as spare.
A spare car.
Yeah.
For when the Viper and the Land Rover are both in the shop at the same time, it happens.
Right. He admits he was just incredibly arrogant. He truly believed he couldn't fail. So he starts investing in startups blindly. He was hiring expensive infrastructure, renting these fancy offices for companies that didn't even have revenue yet.
He called himself the angel of death in hindsight, right?
He did. Because every single company he touched during this massive spending spree went completely belly up.
It's the classic Icarus story. Flying way, way too close to the sun. But the crash is visceral.
Wow, it's brutal. In less than 2 years, he blew through $500,000 in his own savings and way more in investor money. And it all culminates on a very specific date, February 14th, 2008, Valentine's Day.
This is the piggy bank moment. And reading his account of it, it's just heartbreaking.
It is. He's down to his last $10,000 in accessible cash, but the bills coming in are 3 times that. He comes home to his family on a day he usually brings massive bouquets of flowers and expensive gifts, and he has absolutely nothing.
He can't even afford the flowers.
Not even the flowers. He just breaks down at the dinner table. He has to confess to his wife and his children that he's lost everything, that the Midas touch was gone. He'd been hiding it for so long, trying to fix it in the background, but the dam finally broke.
And this is the scene that it sticks with you. His daughter, Adela, she's 9 years old at the time. She sees her dad crying. She runs to her room and comes back with her piggy bank. And it's not some fancy ceramic one. It's wrapped in duct tape and rubber bands to hold it together. She puts it on the table and says, "Daddy, we're gonna make it."
That moment changed everything for him. It was a complete paradigm shift. He realized that his 9-year-old daughter understood financial security better than he, the multimillionaire entrepreneur, did.
And the lesson was so simple.
So simple. Save your money and block your own access to it so it doesn't get stolen, even if the person stealing it is you.
That's the key insight right there, isn't it? Blocking access. Because if the money is there, if we can see it, we will spend it.
100%.
So let's unpack why this happens. Why do smart people, people who know how to build a product, sell a service, hire a great team, why do they consistently fail to keep the money they make?
Michalowicz calls it the survival trap.
Right. The survival trap is what happens when you're in a cash crisis. Most entrepreneurs, when they run low on cash, have one default reaction.
I just need more sales. Exactly. Sales cures all. That's the mantra.
We hear it all the time. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king. But we only ever seem to focus on the revenue part.
But in this context, chasing sales is a trap. He has this diagram. Imagine you're at point A, which is your current crisis, and you want to get to point B, your vision, the calm, profitable company you dreamed of.
Okay, makes sense.
But in a crisis, you don't move toward your vision. You move toward anything that pays.
Ah, so it's like the lawn care guy who suddenly starts fixing chimneys just because a client asked and offered cash.
That is the perfect example. He thinks, I need cash today. So he says yes to the chimney job. But now he's buying ladders and bricks and mortar. He's distracted from his core business. He's adding complexity and cost.
He's actually moving away from his vision of a streamlined, profitable lawn care company.
Precisely. Just to get that quick hit of cash, it's panic selling. You convince yourself that one big client or one big check will solve everything, but it usually just adds more bloat and complexity.
And this leads us to the real villain of this deep dive. And it's not the economy, it's not your competition, it's GAAP.
Generally accepted accounting principles. The holy grail for every accountant on the planet. The standard that runs the entire financial world.
So how can this standard accounting formula, the very thing they teach in every business school, be the thing that's killing us?
Well, let's look at that traditional formula. It is ingrained in us from day one. Sales minus expenses equals profit.
Sales minus expenses equals profit. Seems logical. You sell stuff, you pay your bills, and whatever left over, you get to keep. Simple.
But think about the psychology of that equation. It treats profit as a leftover, a remnant, an afterthought.
Okay.
It implies that profit is something that happens only if everything else goes perfectly. It puts all the priority on the expenses. It's basically saying, pay everyone else first, pay the landlord, the vendors, the staff, and if there are any crumbs left on the plate, you, the owner, can have them.
And usually there are no crumbs.
Usually the plate is licked clean. Because human nature is governed by something called Parkinson's law.
Okay, let's unpack Parkinson's law. Usually we hear this in terms of time, right? Like work expands to fill the time available for its completion.
Yes. If I give you a week to write a report, it takes you a week. If I give you a day, somehow you get it done in a day.
Right.
But Michalowicz argues, and I think he's right, that it also applies to money. Expenses expand to consume the cash available. If you have $10,000 in the bank, you will find necessary business expenses that cost $10,000.
You'll suddenly need to upgrade your laptop or sign up for that new software subscription or hire that consultant you've been thinking about.
We consume what's in front of us. It's like a tube of toothpaste.
Toothpaste. Okay, explain this one.
Think about it. When you have a brand new, full tube of toothpaste, you put a huge glob on the brush. You're wasteful. You drop some in the sink. Whatever, there's plenty more.
Huh. Yeah, I do that.
But when that tube is almost empty, you become a master of extraction. You roll it up from the bottom. You squeeze the corners. You can make that last little bit last for another week.
That is the perfect analogy. And my bank account is the tube of toothpaste.
Exactly. When our bank account is full, the full tube, we are wasteful. We engage in what he calls bank balance accounting.
Which is what I do, and what most entrepreneurs I know do. I don't look at my profit and loss statement. I check my banking app while I'm in line for coffee to see if I can afford the coffee.
That's how we all operate, and that triggers the recency effect. We make decisions based on the immediate data in front of us. If the number is high today, we feel rich. We spend. We buy the new microphone.
And we don't account for the big tax bill that's coming in 3 months or the slow season that's coming in 6 months.
Not at all. The traditional formula sales minus expenses equals profit. It completely ignores this human behavior. It asks us to use willpower to save money. And fighting our own nature is always a losing battle.
So, if the old formula is the Frankenstein formula that builds the monster, what's the fix? How do we use Parkinson's law to our advantage instead of being a victim of it?
We just flip the formula. That's
Yeah.
the genius of it. The new formula is sales minus profit equals expenses.
Sales minus profit equals expenses.
Oh.
So, wait, you take the profit out before you pay the bills?
Precisely. You pay yourself first, you take your profit off the table, you hide it, then and only then you are forced to run your entire business on whatever is left over.
This brings us back to the diet analogy. He talks about small plates.
Yes, and this is based on real nutritional science. There have been studies on this. If you give people a huge dinner plate, they will fill it up and they will eat it all.
Makes sense.
But if you give them a smaller salad plate, they will also fill that up and they'll eat it all, but they consume significantly fewer calories.
And here's the kicker. They don't report feeling any hungrier.
Because the visual cue tells their brain, the plate is full. I've eaten a full plate of food. Exactly. So in business, your operating account is the plate. If you leave all your money in one big operating account, that's a massive buffet plate. You will eat or spend all of it.
But if you take your profit out first and your taxes and your own pay and you move them away, you're left with a much smaller plate of cash for your operating expenses.
And suddenly, you're the guy with the almost empty toothpaste tube. You are forced to be innovative. You're forced to ask the hard questions like, do I really need this subscription? Can I negotiate a better deal on this contract?
It forces frugality and innovation, not through willpower, but by simple resource restriction. You become creative because you absolutely have to be.
That's the magic.
So let's get tactical here. I love the theory, but I want to know how this actually works in practice. I'm listening to this right now. I have one checking account, maybe a savings account I never touch. What do I need to do?
Okay. Mikulovich prescribes a very specific setup. He calls for 5 foundational accounts. And there is a catch.
Yeah.
You really should use 2 different banks.
2 banks. Why make it that complicated? I struggle to remember the password for one bank.
It's because of one of his core principles. Remove temptation. We'll get to that. But first, at your primary bank, the one you log into every day, you're going to set up 3 checking accounts. Account number 1 is income.
Okay, so this is just the big bucket where all the money lands first.
Exactly. All client payments, all credit card sales, every single dollar goes into the income account, and it just sits there. You do not pay bills from this account.
It's a holding tank, a temporary waiting room for cash.
Perfect way to put it. Account number 2 is owner's pay. This one is crucial. This is for the salary you pay yourself for the job you do in the business.
And we should clarify here, this is different from profit, right? This isn't the reward for owning the business.
It's a huge distinction, and one most entrepreneurs miss. Owner's pay is compensation for the labor you provide. If you're the CEO, you get paid a CEO salary. Profit is the reward for the risk you took in starting the company in the first place. You absolutely should get both.
Okay, so at my main bank, I have income and owner's pay. What's the third one?
The third one is operating expenses, or OPEX. This is the account you actually use to run the business. You pay the rent, the staff, the software subscriptions from here. This is your small plate.
Got it. Now the second bank, why do we need a whole other bank?
This is for the last 2 accounts, profit and tax. You set these up at a completely separate financial institution. Ideally, a bank that is a little inconvenient, maybe one that doesn't have a great mobile app.
You want to make it annoying to get to this money.
You want to make it annoying. It's the out of sight, out of mind principle. If you can see your profit account balance sitting right there next to your operating account and you have a cash crunch, you will borrow from it.
And you tell yourself, oh, I'll just transfer it back next week.
And you never ever do. By moving it to Bank B, you break that immediate temptation loop. You'd have to physically drive to the bank or wait 3 days for an electronic transfer. That little bit of friction saved you from your worst impulses.
Okay, so we have the 5 buckets set up. Money comes into the income account. but how much goes where? If I have $1,000 come in from a client, how do I know how to split it up?
This brings us to what he calls the instant assessment. You need to figure out where your business is actually at right now. And this starts with a concept he calls real revenue. This was a huge aha moment for me.
Yeah, this part is so important because a lot of businesses, especially in certain industries, think they're way bigger than they actually are.
Absolutely. Let's take a construction company. That's a classic example. They might say, we're a $5 million company. And technically, their top line revenue is $5 million. But to do that $5 million in sales, they have to buy $3 million in lumber and concrete and maybe pay another $1 million to subcontractors.
So that $4 million just passes right through their hands. It's not really their money. It never even touches the sides.
Correct. Their real revenue, the money that actually stays in the house to cover their own overhead, staff, and profit, is only $1 million. But if that owner tries to run their overhead like a $5 million company, getting the fancy office, the big staff, the fleet of new trucks, they will go broke instantly.
So step one is find your real revenue. Take your total top-line revenue and subtract your materials and subcontractor costs.
Right. Once you have that real revenue number, you compare it to the TAPs. That stands for Target Allocation Percentages. Michalowicz provides a chart in the book based on business size, but let's just look at a typical healthy business doing, say, between $500,000 and $1 million in real revenue.
Okay, what's the target for a healthy business like that? What should the percentages be?
A really solid goal would be something like 15% to profit, 20% to owner's pay, 15% to tax, and that leaves 50% for operating expenses.
Whoa, wait a minute. Only 50% for expenses? I feel like most businesses I know are running at like 95% expenses.
Or 105%, financed by credit cards and lines of credit. And that gap between what you're spending right now, let's say 95%, and what you should be spending, 50%. That gap is what he calls the bleed.
And seeing that number on paper, that must be a terrifying moment.
It's a shock to the system. It hits you like a cold bucket of water. Most entrepreneurs have this horrible realization that they are massively overspending on overhead and, even worse, massively underpaying themselves. They are essentially volunteers in their own company working for free to keep the lights on for everyone else.
So if I do this assessment and realize I'm bleeding out, I'm spending 95% on expenses, I can't just switch to 50% tomorrow. My checks would bounce. The power would get shut off.
Correct. And that's a critical point. You never, ever jump to the target percentages immediately. That's a crash diet. You'll starve the business and you will quit the system within a week. You have to start with a 1% rule.
Start slow.
Incredibly slow.
Yeah.
You start by allocating just 1% of your deposits to the profit account. If you get a $1,000 check, you move $10 to profit. That's it.
$10. Anyone can do that.
Everyone can run their business on 99% of what they used to run it on. It's insignificant mathematically, but psychologically,
Right.
It is a massive, massive win.
You're building the muscle. You're creating the habit.
Exactly. You are establishing the habit, I get paid first.
Okay.
Then every quarter, you look at your numbers and you try to bump it up, make it 2%, then 3%. And at the same time, you're looking at your expenses and trying to cut them by 1% or 2%. It's like the boiled frog concept, but in reverse. You slowly squeeze your expenses down while you slowly ramp your profit up.
I like that. It feels manageable. It doesn't feel like you have to blow up your entire business overnight. Now let's talk about the workflow. Because if I'm logging into my bank every single time a client pays me $50, I'm going to go crazy.
You definitely don't want to do this daily. That would be a nightmare. Michalowicz suggests what he calls the 125 rhythm.
A 10th and the 25th of the month.
That's it. You let all your deposits accumulate in that main income account. Then, twice a month, on the 10th and the 25th, you do your allocations. You log in, you look at the total in the income account, and you move the money to the other buckets based on your percentages. Then and only then do you pay the bills from what's left in the operating expense account.
So if a bill comes in on the 12th of the month and it's due on the 15th, you don't pay it.
Nope. It sits in a folder on your desk until the 25th.
That seems incredibly stressful. My hand would be shaking wanting to pay that bill.
It sounds stressful at first, but it's actually incredibly clarifying. By batching your payments, you see the full picture of your cash flow. If you look at your operating account on the 10th and there simply isn't enough money to pay all the bills that are due, well, then you don't pay them all.
So you have to make hard choices.
You have to prioritize. You have to contact vendors and ask for an extension. It forces you to confront the reality that you don't have the cash, rather than hiding from it by swiping a credit card or playing the check float game and hoping for the best.
It stops the reactive spending. And honestly, it clears your mind for the other 28 days of the month. You're not constantly worrying about bills because it's not bill day yet.
Exactly. It makes the pain of being short on cash real and immediate, which is the only thing that will force you to actually fix the underlying problem, which is usually cutting costs or increasing efficiency.
Okay, we've been talking a lot about restriction and discipline and rhythm, but we have to talk about the fun part, the reason we're doing all this in the first place, the quarterly distribution.
This is maybe the most important part for the psychology of the system. If it's all pain and no gain, you won't stick with it. It's just not human nature. So every quarter, you look at that profit account in your second inconvenient bank. It's been building up 1% or 5% at a time.
And you take half of it out.
You take 50% of the money that's in there and you distribute it to the owners as a profit distribution. But here's the non-negotiable rule, and I absolutely love this rule. You cannot plow it back into the business.
Wait, what? You can't buy a new server with it. You can't hire that consultant. You can't put it toward that new marketing campaign you've been planning.
Absolutely not. You have to spend it on you, on personal enjoyment, a vacation, a really nice dinner, a new couch, a watch you've always wanted, something that brings you joy.
Why is that mandatory? That feels almost irresponsible if the business has needs.
Because you have to rewire your brain. For years, your business has been that Frankenstein's monster that just eats your cash and gives you stress in return. It has trained you to resent it.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, suddenly, your business is giving you a bonus check every 90 days. You start to see the business as a servant to you, not as your master. You get a dopamine hit that is associated with profit, not with spending on more business toys.
And the other 50% just stays in the account.
Yes, that stays as your rainy day fund. The goal is to build that up until you have a 3-month reserve of operating cash sitting there. So you get the stability of a cash reserve and the reward of a quarterly bonus. It creates a powerful, positive feedback loop.
Okay, I can see the listeners nodding along, but I can also hear the big objection. This all sounds great for a healthy business, but I have a mountain of debt. I can't take a profit distribution when I owe the bank $50,000. I should use every single penny to pay that down.
That is the most common objection, and it sounds so logical, but it's actually dangerous. Mikhailovich argues that if you wait until you are debt-free to start taking a profit, you will never, ever get there.
Because you never built the habit.
You need the habit now. If you don't take a profit when you have debt, you won't take a profit when you don't have debt. You'll just find new, bigger things to spend money on.
So you take the profit anyway, even with the debt.
You do, even if it is just that 1%. But you absolutely have to attack the debt aggressively at the same time. He calls for a debt freeze.
Which sounds pretty cold. What does that entail?
First, you stop the bleeding. You stop all recurring payments and you reevaluate everything. He suggests an expense audit. You print out 12 months of bank and credit card statements. You get a highlighter and a red pen.
I love a good audit. It's like cleaning out the garage. It's painful, but so satisfying.
It is. You highlight the mandatory stuff that keeps the doors open. Rent, electricity, cost of goods sold. Then you look at everything else. The recurring subscriptions, the memberships, the software tools you bought because they were on sale and you might use them someday, and you cut 10% of your expenses immediately.
Just straight up cut it. No questions asked.
Gone. Call the bank and cancel the credit card if you have to stop the zombie subscriptions. You know, the ones that keep charging you $29 a month for a service you haven't logged into in 2 years.
We all have those. That seems doable. We all have that kind of fluff. But there's a harder conversation to be had here, labor costs.
Yeah, this is the painful part of the book, and he's very direct about it. Labor is often the single biggest source of bloat in a company. We hire people to solve problems that could be solved by better systems or automation. Or we hire because our ego wants to manage a big team.
He tells a story about this from his own company, doesn't he?
He does. He talks about a time when his company was failing, and he had to lay off a significant portion of his staff. I think it was something like 10 people.
That's devastating for everyone involved.
It's the worst thing a leader has to do, and he really struggled with it. But he came to realize that if he didn't do it, the whole ship would sink, and everyone would lose their jobs. By pruning the staff, he saved the entity. And he notes that often the people he had to let go were C players in his organization. They went on to find other jobs where they were A players.
It's the pruning to grow concept. It sucks, and we shouldn't gloss over the human cost, but if the alternative is the entire business dying, it's a necessary evil. So once you've cut the costs, how do we tackle that actual pile of debt?
He advocates for the debt snowball method. This was popularized by Dave Ramsey, and it creates a bit of a fight between mathematicians and psychologists.
Right. The math people say pay the debt with the highest interest rate first, because mathematically that saves you the most money in interest payments.
Correct. That saves you the most money in the long run. But Michalovitz and Ramsey say no. Pay the debt with the smallest balance first, regardless of the interest rate.
Why would you do that?
Momentum. It's all about psychology. If you have a $500 credit card debt and a $10,000 loan, and you spend 6 months chinning away at the $10,000 one, you don't feel like you've accomplished anything. The needle barely moves.
But if you throw everything you have at that $500 debt and crush it in 2 weeks?
Boom, it's gone. You get a win, you get a dopamine hit, you feel like a person who destroys debt. We're emotional creatures, not calculators. You take that energy and the money you were paying on that small debt and you roll it onto the next smallest one. It snowballs.
This whole system really seems to hinge on understanding our own psychology, doesn't it? It's not about being a math genius. It's about behavior modification.
It really is. There's a quote from Suze Orman that Michalovitz uses that just sums this up perfectly. She said, "If you want to get out of debt, you must get more enjoyment out of saving your money than you do spending your money."
That is profound. Because usually we get the dopamine hit from the spending, buying the new truck, the fancy ergonomic chair, the big branding overhaul. That feels like we're doing business.
We think that's progress, but it's just spending. We have to retrain ourselves to get that same hit from seeing the profit account balance go up. The win isn't the new toy. The win is the security. The win is the freedom.
And to help with that, he shares this great little game from his friend Paul Scheider. He calls it the Just One More Day game.
This is such a great little mental hack. So Paul runs a company called Hedgehog Leatherworks. He used to drive past Home Depot every day on his way to his shop, and he'd always think, oh, I need electrical supplies for the shop.
And the normal reaction is to just pull in and buy them. Because I need them. It's a business expense.
Right. But Paul started playing a game with himself. He'd say, I'm not going to buy it today. I'll just wait one more day. I'll buy it tomorrow.
And what happened?
He'd drive past, and the next day he'd ask himself again, do I really, truly need it today? Can I wait just one more day? And what he found was that often, after 3 or 4 days, the need just disappeared. Or he'd find a clever workaround in the shop that cost $0.
So by forcing a delay, he tested whether the need was actually just an impulse.
Exactly. It prevented all that impulse spending. And that really brings us to the core philosophy of this whole book, efficiency over growth.
Now, that is a countercultural statement in the startup world. We are brainwashed from day one to think, growth, growth, growth. We have to make it rain.
The rainmaker myth. We think more sales will cure all of our problems. But more sales often just hide your problems. They cover up all the inefficiencies with a big flood of cash. It's like a deep river covering up sharp rocks. The rocks are still there.
And if that flood of cash stops, if the rain stops for a season, those rocks are exposed and they will tear the bottom right out of your boat.
So Michalovitz is saying, fix the boat first. Find the money that is already hidden in your business by cutting waste and being more efficient. That is faster, easier, and way more reliable than trying to make it rain new sales.
It's like finding water underground, tapping into an aquifer that's already there, instead of doing a rain dance and just hoping the clouds open up for you.
Precisely. The money is likely already in your business. It's just being wasted on expenses you don't actually need.
So what does this all mean for us? For the person listening right now who has that knot in their stomach every time payroll is due?
It means you have to stop treating your business like a monster you have to feed. You have to stop looking at your top-line revenue and puffing out your chest about how big your business is. We need to completely shift the question we ask ourselves and others.
Not, how big is your business?
No. The question is, how healthy is your business? Health is profit. Health is cash reserves. Health is the owner getting paid well and taking regular distributions.
And the transformation is possible. You can go from that panicked 3 a.m. sweat to a calm, rhythmic system where you, the owner, finally get paid first.
It turns the monster into a cash cow. And it allows you to actually enjoy the journey of entrepreneurship rather than just surviving it day to day.
Okay, let's wrap this up with a final challenge for everyone listening. You've heard the theory, you understand the small plates, you know about the 5 accounts.
So here's the challenge. You are now aware of the profit first method, but awareness isn't enough. Membership in this club requires action, and the first action is to be brutally honest. Can you look at yourself in the mirror and ask, how healthy is my business? Without lying.
And if the answer is no, or I'm not sure, or it's a complete disaster, here is your homework, your first step.
Open a savings account today, not tomorrow, right now. Even if it's just at your current bank for now to get started, call it your profit account. And then transfer 1% of your current business bank balance into it. Just 1%.
If you have $1,000 in there, move $10. If you have $100, move a single dollar.
It is a small, seemingly insignificant action, but it changes your identity. In that moment, you become a person who takes profit first. You break the seal.
And once you start, you won't want to stop. That's it for this deep dive into Profit First. Go fill those small plates.